Hello and welcome back to live coverage of the Last Chance qualifier for the Apex Gaming $20,000 Invitational. I'm Todd Tandy Anderson, joined by Ross Merriam. Say hi, Ross.
Hi, Ross.
We got to come up with a fun name for you, like Rarium or Moss. Moss is pretty cool.
No,
He's Moss now, everyone.
that's not happening.
Yes, Moss Merriam. Anyway, we have 2 rounds in the books. We are about to showcase our undefeated players left in the event. We have 3 matches to bring you. Ross, why don't you give us a rundown of the feature match we'll be watching first?
Yeah, so we're going to be starting on Chase Irwin on Izzet Murktide. Saw them earlier taking down our lone Beans player in the field. A very different matchup here in round 3. They're going to be playing against Bradley Marsh, a regular on the Apex series, playing Burn. Now, if you haven't kept up with the way Burn is being built in the current modern metagame, no Eidolon on the Great Revels, but instead 4 copies of Roiling Vortex, a card that is quite good against all the Evoke Elementals and other free spells that exist in the current modern metagame. Not as many free spells in Izzet Murktide, but can potentially punish something like a Force of Negation.
Right.
And it's just a difficult to answer card that just keeps pinging you. So this is going to be an interesting matchup because Irwin has to be on the defensive very early on. You got to conserve your life total, use early removal on creatures, trade counter spells for burn spells when you can. But he also has to be mindful of his clock. Every extra turn that you give the burn player represents about 1 or 2 damage, because some percentage of the time it'll be a 3 or 4 damage burn spell. Some percentage of the time it'll be a brick. So you really want to limit the amount of cards that your opponent gets to see in the game. And now that the burn deck has all of those horizon lands and things, they don't have as many dead draws as the game goes long. So I think it's going to really come down to the namesake card. Murktide Regent is the best threat at turning the corner. When you're interacting on the first 2 to 3 turns, you slam your Murktide on turn 3 or 4, and suddenly you're off to the races. You can close the game out quickly. Maybe you have one more piece of interaction to keep yourself alive.
All right, I'm going to nip something in the bud. Everyone in chat right now is just spamming about the flipped cards from round number 2. The head judge was right there, examined the deck, saw that there was not a pattern in the cards that were upside down, and it was an honest mistake. He was issued a warning. It is not cheating. He was not disqualified. He was not given a game loss, and he won the match. Okay, just to clear that up for everyone who's losing their mind.
And that there is a difference between marked cards without a pattern and marked cards with a pattern.
Yeah,
Those are
even
two very different
if
infractions.
2 cards that are of the same flip over, but there's 14 other cards in the deck that are also upside down and different. That's not really a pattern. That's just half your deck is upside down.
Yeah.
So, but the head judge checked it. We're fine. Everything's good. But the players in the feature match area are ready to play. We're going to watch Bradley Marsh on Burn versus Chase Irwin on Izzet Murktide. Let's head on down to the feature match area and see who takes it down for round number 3. The winner of this match very likely into the top 4. We'll see if they're able to clinch that 3-0. Start off here with Murktide player on the play. Chase Irwin has Spire Bluff Canal.
Okay, so definitely being on the play, quite helpful for Murktide. Lets you line up your early removal spells on those haste creatures before they can get in for any amount of damage. I do see a red card in Irwin's hand. Thinking Unholy Heat. Also looks like a good amount of counter spells. The one thing I'm not noticing is a threat.
Right, and against Burn, yes, you can counterspell some of their cards and you can kill some of their creatures, but eventually they're going to lava spike you to death, and you can't counter everything. You have to physically win the game. Here is Monastery Swift Spear as the 1-drop for Bradley Marsh, and that gets taken out by Unholy Heat, and we're going to pass it back. Chase Irwin with no turn 2 play, just says go with 2 mana, likely has counterspell at the ready. Now we're going to go back Marsh's way. Here's Swift Spear number 2. Things are maybe about to get hot and heavy. We'll see if Irwin wants to use Counterspell on this. I don't know if he has another answer straight up, and Counterspell might save him some damage in the long run.
Yeah, all the spells in the burn deck are about the same. The big difference is Skullcrack sometimes is important because it stops life gain. Not that relevant here. Sometimes Lightning Helix helps you win a race, but Searing Blaze is a big one. I do see a Searing Blaze in Bradley Marsh's hand. Maybe Irwin wants to save a counterspell for that in order to protect something like a Ragavan or a Dragon's Rage Channeler.
Okay, here is Riftbolt on suspend from Bradley Marsh. We're going to go back Chase Irwin's way. We saw him draw Narset for the turn last turn. He has Expressive Iteration, chose not to play it. Sitting on a hard cast, Force of Negation and Spell Snare. Draws Ragavan for the turn. Can go for a dash. Maybe looking to do that with some protection up. Spell Snare and Force of Negation, perhaps.
Yeah, that is definitely a potential line. And Ragavan is quite good against the burn deck. You end up just hitting sort of burn spells that you can kill them with. If you hit a lightning helix, it's incredible. I don't think Marsh has any helixes in his particular list. Yeah, looks like those have been taken out. They've been such a liability in the last couple of years against Ragavan that they've made their way out of the deck.
All right, Searing Blaze goes for the Rogvan, but Spell Snare is at the ready. Roth
Love a
is
spell snare.
fanning himself down in the booth. And here is a connect with Rogvan. We're going to get a treasure token and a flip off the top of the deck. Looking hopefully for a Monastery Swiss Spear or something like that to be able to play. Oh, it's a Goblin Guide? Do we want to play it?
Looks like Chase was a little quick to put the Ragavan back into his hand. That moves him to the end step.
Okay. Well, gonna Rift Bolt face is Bradley Marsh. Gonna put Chase Irwin down to 17. Marsh did take a ping off of the Painland Sunbaked Canyon last turn to play that Searing Blaze. We're gonna draw a card off of one of them. Finds another Searing Blaze. Not a target right now.
Yeah, but we do know that there's the Ragavan there in Chase Irwin's hands. We'll probably see the Searing Blaze here.
Chase gonna go digging. Cast Expressive Iteration. Finds Ragavan Counterspell land. My guess is Ragavan into exile to cast and the Counterspell to hand. If he needs the land though, it looks like he keeps that instead. I'm not sure over what. Probably the Ragavan since he already has one in hand.
Yeah, now we can cast the Ragavan from hand and use the Treasure and the Scalding Tarn to hold up potential counterspell mana.
Bless you. I need a big mute button on the table, so if I'm about to sneeze, I can press it. All right, Chase Irwin gonna go ahead and deploy this Ragavan, and he's sacking the treasure instead of the Scalding Tarn. Marsh here gonna play another Searing Blaze without landfall, just gonna deal one to the Ragavan.
Yeah, went for a dashed Ragavan there and took down the counterspell shield. Got quite punished for the aggressive play.
Okay, we're gonna go Boblin. Do we want to keep it or do we want to shuffle? Looks like we want to shuffle, so we're gonna fetch. My guess, I don't think we have a 1-drop in hand, so maybe it's like tap Steam Vents. Maybe it's Basic Mountain if there's one in the deck, but Basic Mountain is a rarity for the Murktide decks usually.
Yeah, too many blue pips in those mana costs for you to want to play a Basic Mountain.
Yeah, maybe harkening back to the days when they played Archmage's Charm, but I always liked having a mountain to fetch off of Tarn or Wooded Foothills or whatever to be able to bolt a Goblin Guide without taking 3 damage.
Yeah, this is the matchup where you would want it. Looks like a Boros Charm came off the top, so
Spike, yeah.
It goes for the spike.
I see a hand. It looks like Narset, Force Negation, and Counterspell. So Marsh is gonna have some work cut out for him. Thinks he's Counterspells, but
yeah, the Narset's looking a little awkward because he only has the 4 mana. Blowing that treasure, very punishing.
Yeah, slight misstep there for Chase Irwin, but perhaps the sequence was disrupted from the removal from Marsh, and he had some other plans. Here is a Narset for Chase. We're going to go ahead and cast it here. And now Marsh can crack the Sunbaked Canyon. This wouldn't affect him anyway, but he says, I'm going to go for Counterspell instead. That is an illegal play. 1 second. Yeah, our spotter do that.
Can't pitch cast the Force of Negation on your own turn.
All right. So that will be fixed here real quick, and then we're going to do some rewinding here.
So good timing on the Boros Charm here from Bradley Marsh. Yeah, Garrison is now over.
Hey, while you're out there, can you get him to get some big dice on the Narset? Sorry.
Big dice.
Look, I'm sorry, man. When someone pulls out a little dice and puts on their Planeswalker, I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
No.
Big dice.
All right, so what happened here was Irwin played Narsets. Marsh responded with Boros Charm. Chase Irwin attempted to play Force of Negation, pitching the Narset, but the downside of those pitch cards from Modern Horizons 2, or Modern Horizons 1, excuse me, were that they could only be played on your opponent's turn if they're being played for free. So Force Negation, not quite Force Will when it comes to protecting your own stuff. And so that Boros Charm should resolve, and Chase Irwin is down to 8. Thank you so much, Mr. Brooker. All right, and an update here from our head judge, and Chase Irwin does get a warning. Uh, that in itself doesn't do a whole lot right now, but over time, those warnings can accrue into a game loss. That's something that Chase has to look out for later on.
Yeah. And at this point, Marsh is out of cards, and Chase is at a relatively high life total of 8. But with no pressure, Marsh is going to get a bunch of cards off the top of his deck, to try to close this game out. Ooh, yeah, Marsh asking if it's Delirium, because if that's a 2 power or 2 damage and Holy Heat, Marsh could. You can't draw because of the Narset, but
Right. Maybe he was thinking about trying, and then he's
Yeah.
like, well, that's going to be pretty bad for me if I do that. How many times you walked into Narset in your life? Just the static. How many times has it crushed your soul?
oh, probably 3 or 4.
All right, well, see what we go digging for here with Expressive Iteration. Chase Irwin here takes a peek, finds Dragon Rage Channeler.
Okay, there's some pressure. I like that. And it looks like we do have another Rogovan in hand. The Preordain is going to help us dig a lot. Get to Surveil and then look at 3 other cards after that. Can we find a Murktide Regent? It's a land and a bauble. Might as well keep the bauble. Let's just Surveil as well as get another card in.
Agree. Okay. Trigger again. Dragon Rage Channeler doing Dragon Rage Channeler things. Graveyard is full if we're ever able to find a Murktide. Now we're going to go back Marsh's way after he pops this Sunbait Canyon. Now, he is drawing a card outside of his draw step, but the Narset only stops additional draws on each turn.
You get 1 card each turn, so good timing again from Bradley Marsh.
Brad Marsh. Shelly.
Ooh.
There's like 4 people who got that one, I think.
Rolling Vortex gets Force Negation. That Vortex should be exiled.
Okay. I'm going to just let it go because I know that Burn doesn't have anything, and I'm running our director ragged going to fix stuff, and we'll make sure we fix things that really matter. Here is an attack for 3 with the Darcy. Narset can tick down to 1 looking for something, but here is the big boy, the Flappy Flap, Murktide Regent. Let's get Murktide on the screen because Murktide Regent is the focal point of this Izzet deck. Ross, tell me about what's going on right now.
Well, Chase Irwin is closing up this game, has a counterspell back as well, so Brad's going to need to find like 4 burn spells to win this game and just doesn't have the time to do it now in the face of this clock, which is down to 2 turns.
All right, well, Marsh here on empty. We know there's a counterspell in Irwin's hand in this Murktide region. Oh my god, he got a little dice again. It's okay. The game's almost over. But just know that I have a personal vendetta against Chase Irwin now. Make it my life's mission. Whenever he's gonna be in McDonald's one day ordering a cheeseburger, I'm gonna be like, sorry man, you can't. You used a little dice. I'm just gonna take your burger from you. Alright. Nothing to do here except play your spells.
This is another Roiling Vortex. Yeah. Not particularly relevant, but
yeah, I would just let this go. But we're going to counterspell it because nothing matters. Maybe a bit existential, but in the grand scheme of things. There it is. Big dice. I'm getting some help. Finally. Finally getting some help.
we even got different dice for loyalty and plus and plus 1 counters now.
I take back everything I said. Chase Irwin's cool now.
He can get his cheeseburger.
All right, draws for turn. We have a big attack incoming. This looks like 11, so we're a little short without a lightning bolt, but there's Rogovan Dash. This should be it. Game number 1 goes to Chase Irwin on Izzet Murktide, and looked pretty good there in this matchup, you know.
Yeah, had a really nice draw. The card advantage from the Narsets ended up being quite relevant. Stayed at parity in the early turns, was on the play, had the removal spell for turn 1 for the creature, couple early counter spells, and the burn deck just never really got anything going.
All right, well, as these players are reaching for some help out of their sideboard, I'm gonna reach over and ask my man Ross, give me your expert opinion on what you think Bradley Marsh is gonna be bringing in out of the burn deck sideboard.
So, in the burn sideboard, I see 4 copies of Sanctifier and Vec, 3 Ensnaring Bridge, 2 Wear Tear, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Smash to Smithereens, and 2 Chalice of the Void. I kind of like Ensnaring Bridge.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, Murktide is a heck of a drug, and that thing will whoop you if you don't have any check for it.
You empty your hand pretty quickly, and it just buys you a ton of time against them. I don't think I would bring in both Bridge and Path. That seems like too many non-burn spells to bring in. The card that's interesting to me is Sanctifier and Vec. Do you want to just bring in a creature that's difficult for them to answer?
Well, from my experience, Sanctifier Invect is just extremely annoying because it doesn't die, and things that don't die often attack. And in a burn deck, attacking is pretty good.
Yeah, I kind of like it. It also, makes it somewhat difficult to get Delirium.
Yes.
Exiling a lot of the creatures and the removal spells can make Delirium hard to get, can
And
make Murktide hard to turn on.
Sorceries with old expressive iteration too.
Yeah, they have more sorceries with preordained, but still, like you limit their graveyard a lot. So I think we could see that one as well coming in.
Yeah, this isn't really like a Roiling Vortex match, so I think maybe we can board out some things like that.
Yeah.
All right, on the other side of things, though, we do have Chase Irwin's Murktide deck. How is he going to be shoring up for the post-sideboard hitters from Burn?
Chase's sideboard is 2 copies of Engineered Explosives, 1 Flusterstorm, 1 Spell Pierce, 2 Stern Scolding, 1 Cursed Totem, 1 Unlicensed Hearse, 1 Blood Moon, 1 Days Undoing, 1 Force of Negation to supplement 1 in the main, 1 Narset Parter of Veils to supplement 2 in the main, 1 Subtlety to supplement 1 in the main, and 2 copies of Fury. I definitely like Flusterstorm and Spell Pierce. The 1-mana counter spells are excellent. I think a lot of players would be tempted to bring in Stern Scolding, but with only the 8 1-drops, it's not as good. It does counter Sanctifier, so if you're anticipating Sanctifier, I could see Stern Scolding. I really just don't like it on the draw.
Well, I don't like it because the burn decks have moved far away from having a lot of creatures in general. So there's a chance there's only 8 creatures in the deck after sideboard, and Stern Scolding just seems like poo-poo there.
You'd have to be anticipating Sanctifier and Vec, which could also lead to the Engineered Explosives coming in. But other than that, and the Force of Negation certainly comes in as well. So you got 3 nice counter spells that are auto includes. The rest is just what are you anticipating out of the burn deck if you're Chase Irwin. And it really revolves around Sanctifier and Vec. So that's our sort of cat and mouse game.
All right. Well, as these players are finishing up their sideboarding choices, they're going to get Mulligan's stuff underway here shortly. I'd like to take a moment and say thank you to the sponsors of the Apex Gaming Invitational Series. First up, our flagship sponsor, TCGplayer.com. They're your one-stop shop for anything TCG related. They also have TCG Player Infinite, their sister site that hosts all of their strategy content. You can read articles from big names like Frank Karsten, a Magic Hall of Famer, and a number of other talented individuals on TCGplayer.com and TCG Player Infinite. I don't want to be, I don't know what the word is. I don't want to be coy. TCG Player rules the market, the card market, and if you need singles, that's where you want to go. Next up, Moxfield. Moxfield is an awesome deck building website. I've been using it on my personal stream to collect all of my decks that I've been building. They have a nice deck builder, and we are very appreciative to have them sponsor us here on the Apex series. Ultimate Guard is your premier leader in TCG supplies, from the Katana sleeves to the archive deck box that can hold entire cubes and hosts of commander decks. Make sure to check out Ultimate Guard products at your local game store, and if they don't have any, say, hey, why not? Lastly, Wings Etc. Grill and Pub. Thank you so much to Wings Etc. for sponsoring us, because they are where we go after every day that we're here. And we go there, we eat, we're happy, we're fed, and then we go to bed. And good times at Wings Etc. always.
We go to 4 places in Caldwell, Ohio. We go
Name
to
them.
Apex Home Store.
Yeah.
We go to Wings Etc.
Yeah.
We go to our hotel.
Yeah.
We go to Kyle's house.
We do go to Kyle's house. Now, we did one time went to Lori's. That's another restaurant around town. And another time we went to...
Do you mean another or the other?
Okay, I went to Subway once. I went to McDonald's once. We can be real if you want. All right, players here are just about ready for game number 2. These players here are both currently undefeated at 2-0. We are playing a last chance qualifier for the Sunday main event, the $20,000 Apex Invitational. We're giving away 4 slots here tonight, and we're going to be giving away 8 more slots tomorrow, as we have 2 more last chance qualifiers. And Sunday is the big main event. It's going to be a modern event where we are playing, I'm guessing, 8 rounds. It's going to be really close to 8 rounds. It might only be 7. But today we're playing 5 rounds with no cut to top 8. We're just going to play 5 rounds of straight Swiss, and 4 invites given to the best 4 records.
Yeah, and with 22 players in the field tonight, the record these players are looking for to get that top 4, earn that qualification, is 4-1. So these players 2-0, they're halfway there. They just need 2 more in the next 3 rounds.
And they'll be living on a prayer.
They'll be playing Sunday. I do see a Sanctifier in Vec and Bradley Marsh's hand, so at least some number of those came in. I'm not sure if I see a second land.
I don't see a second white, but I see the Funky Mountain and I see a fetch land. That's one of the reasons why I'm not the hugest fan of the double white creatures out of the sideboards of Burn. While Sanctifier and Vect is great, you play 3 mountains, right? Like,
yeah.
3, you know?
And you got 17 white sources.
Yeah, but sometimes you draw a mountain, and then you can never cast your
Brad
spell.
actually has 16 white sources, also playing a Fiery Islet.
Wow. Cool. I'm just kidding. All right, here is turn 1. Monastery Swiftspear bangs for 1. Gonna go back Chase's way. Let's see if he has the answer. And I see a bolt peeking out over there. See if that's what he wants to play. Gonna pass the turn, maybe baiting Bradley to play a burn spell or 2 to try to pump the Swiftspear instead of playing another creature.
Well, Bradley was punished here. Could have led on fetch for a shock, and then if he draws another one, he can play turn 2 Sanctifier. Instead, just going to have to cast some burn spells here on the second turn.
Every time a misplay gets punished, an angel gets its wings. Here's Sacred Foundry. Bradley Marsh finds white source number 1. The extra wood if the hill's drawn for turn now looks sheepish. But we're going to play some burn spells here before attacks more than likely. I see him summon a Boros Charm. Here's an attack with Swift. Here's the Boros Charm.
Upstairs.
And Spell Pierce that.
Okay, so we decide to make that trade. That does take you 2 damage. If that Pierce counters a 3 damage burn spell, you're now behind in the trade overall.
I don't want to say I'm mad about that play, but I'm a little mad about that play. Okay, 2 mana. Here is a dashed Ragavan, so we're going to get in some damage while the damage is getting. And we're going to use that treasure likely to play Lightning Bolt on this Monastery Swiftspear. Oh, I think I'll maybe play that Path Exile instead, huh? That's just a free removal spell. It's pretty nice.
I think I would give my opponent a land to keep a bolt around.
I agree. And Chase Irwin disagrees. Here we go. Okay, Bradley Marsh here with... Oh, he brought in a Snaring Bridge like you said.
Yeah.
That one might be real tough for Chase Irwin to beat once it comes down.
Yeah, not a lot of answers to it in the deck, really.
You want to hear some old man talk about Ensnaring Bridge?
Do I have a choice?
No. No. So I'll just wait. It's not that important, but I like Ensnaring Bridge.
I was gonna say there is no way, but if he has a treasure, we can engineer explosives on 3. That is the only potential way for Chase Irwin's deck list to remove an Ensnaring Bridge from the battlefield.
Does he have an Odawara?
Other than that.
Does he have a Brazen Borrower?
No Borrower, but 1 Odawara. So you can bounce it for a turn, maybe counter it on the way back down.
All right, well, Bradley Marsh, what you got? I see Sanctifier and Vect that can come down and perhaps keep Chase Irwin off of a big graveyard. I'm curious if Irwin has a Spell Snare in hand and might be saving it for the Sanctifier and Vect.
It would be pretty good.
Here's Sanctifier. Do we have the answer? I don't think so. I saw a hand that looks like some red interaction and a Spell Pierce, maybe? Well, we're popping this treasure for Lightning Bolt. We're going to go ahead and blast that Monastery Swiftspear.
Okay. And then, of course, the Sanctifier does exile the Lightning Bolt.
And we're going to suspend Rift Bolt. Can we get Sanctifier and Vec on the screen? I'm pretty sure it's one-sided, which also makes me upset. But I'm not 100%. 2/2, pro black, pro red, enters the battlefield, exile all cards that are black and red from all graveyards. That Swiftspear was not there. And it says, if a red or black permanent spell or card not on the battlefield will be put into a graveyard, exile instead. So that Swiftspear does need to be exiled. We'll get that fixed in just a moment.
So does that Expressive Iteration.
Yeah, Expressive Iteration as well. We need to have a guard dog on the feature match area. Just like, hey, exile that. Poof. Oh, 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 oh. It's like so inconsequential for the burn deck, but it is extremely important for the Izzet Murktide deck. Every red card needs to be exiled. That'll make sure that the Murktide Regent is difficult to play.
Murktide Regent, Dragon's Rage Channeler has trouble getting to Delirium. There's a lot of relevant interactions there. That's why one of the reasons the Sanctifier comes in.
True, true. Okay, Bobble takes a peek. Thank you, Bricker.
Take another peek.
All right. We're going to say go. We're going to draw 2. Has Subtlety at the ready, but that one doesn't stop Ensnaring Bridge. 3 to face.
Could potentially ambush the Sanctifier in a couple turns.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, draws for turn. It's a Lightning Bolt. Oh, no, already had the Lightning Bolt. Draws for turn. It's a land. Now we can go land, bridge, bolt.
But at this point, do you even want to play the bridge? Because you probably want to be attacking with your Sanctifier.
Good call. Good call. Maybe he wants to just go land, hold up, bolt for a dash Rogvin, or maybe to throw it at face.
Yeah. But maybe it's more important to get the bridge down and just buy yourself a lot of time. It is so hard for Irwin to get that bridge off the battlefield.
Yeah. What if we go land, bridge, go, hold up the bolt, and then if Rogvin just can't attack, right? And then on your turn, you go draw for turn, attack for 2, play my card.
Yeah. I would have liked that.
Marsh going to throw damage face while the shields are down. Bolt not exiled again. Bradley Marsh about to get kicked out of the venue. There he is. Thank you. I just want everyone to know, I'm like kind of joking, you know. The rules are the rules, and I will abide by them. But if I personally don't think that the rule matters, like for example, a red card in the graveyard last game that should have been gone or whatever.
Yeah, on the last turn.
Anyway. Back Irwin's way. We'll see if he can do anything about the Sanctifier. No bridge was cast from Marsh. Maybe playing around Spell Pierce.
Also left the land in hand, too, for potential Searing Blaze landfall.
Here's a Dash Rogvin. Now, we can maybe find an answer to the Sanctifier Invect off the top of the deck, like a Path to Exile.
Yeah, could find a path. Could just find Burn to win a race.
Right. Just finds a land, though, and Marsh here taking 2 might be thinking, oh, man, maybe I should have played this in Snare Bridge last turn.
Now, there's a DRC in Chase Irwin's hand, but I don't think we have Delirium. I think it's just Artifact and Instant.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that before the sideboarded games where Sanctifier does shut off Delirium quite well.
Yeah, hasn't found a fetch land either to get into the graveyard, and at this point, a fetch land is a pretty big liability because Irwin is currently at an odd life total, which means 1 more life loss is going to increase the clock by a turn from the 2/2 Sanctifier and back.
Okay, another land drawn here for Marsh. Plays fetch land. We're going to attack for 2. That can't be blocked. Sanctifier does have protection from red and black, which means it can't be blocked, can't be targeted, can't be dealt damage.
Now, we could play the bridge here and still have 1 card in hand, got to draw up to 2 and keep attacking, but Marsh declines once again.
Well, I wonder if Marsh is just like not well versed enough with Ensnaring Bridge to understand the like hold 1 card, draw for turn, attack for 2 dynamic that the bridge offers. Maybe in his mind, the bridge is just no one can attack ever again. Did we find a way to win?
Boros Charm. That's not lethal yet, and awkwardly, Irwin has 5 mana up with 3 lands and 2 treasures, so we can't Boros Charm plus Subtlety to ambush the Sanctifier.
You gotta do it, though. That means Bolt's lethal, and now the Ensnaring Bridge is not even that good.
Yes, and the Boros Charm should be in the exile zone.
We need like a buzzer. Like a buzzer on the table whenever something doesn't go to exile.
We need somebody to go to Walmart and buy a copy of Taboo. We'll take the buzzer out of that.
Nice. All right, well, does finally exile it. Thank you so much for keeping that clean. We're at 3. Rogvin goes back to hand. We're going to fetch down to 2. Not a big difference between 2 and 3. The Rogvin dash hit for sure.
Now we're on. So, interestingly, with the fetch land and the bauble and instant, if we have a removal spell to use on the Rogavan, that's going to turn another Rogavan will get exiled. Okay, so I'm trying to think of how we can get a fourth type for Chase Irwin. Needs to get like a Narset in the graveyard.
Well, you could just
Preordain.
pitch the subtlety right now.
Yeah. Okay, so the subtlety can do it.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, we found a burn spell. We're gonna put Chase Irwin down to 3, and we'll see if this burn spell will resolve. We have Rift Bolt. It's a hard cast. It does get countered by a number of things. And then we die to Rogavan because we never played Ensnaring Bridge. But either way, you have a 3-cost thing, right? You play the 3-cost thing that wins the game, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, because the 3-cost thing that doesn't in the game can also get countered.
Yeah. I think we're just getting punished for holding the bridge. If Irwin has a counterspell for the Rift Bolt, which I'm not sure he does.
I'm not sure he does either, but we'll see.
Bradley, you can't beat a counterspell regardless. Might as well do the thing that wins you the game.
We need another buzzer for that.
You're the burn deck. Just burn them.
Yeah.
It's what you do.
Yeah. Bang. All right, Marsh here.
Oh,
Taps 3. Let's see which one he pulls to the front. Rift ya. 1 mana. That's a Spell Pierce. Marsh here, land is tapped. Didn't play that land last turn and punished for that as well.
I guess if we go for the bridge line, we could go bridge, tap land, suspend, and empty our hand that way. If your opponent specifically has Flusterstorm, that's better.
Sure. Well, Chase Irwin takes it down 2-0. Murktide defeating Burn. Surprisingly, I don't want to say it was easy. Game 1 looked pretty easy.
Yeah.
Game 2, there was maybe some missequencing, some judgment calls, and ultimately Bradley Marsh deciding not to play that bridge so that he continuously could attack with the Sanctifier in and that cost him.
And if you stop that Rogavan coming in, it never finds the Boros Charm. That's the Boros Charm off the top from the Rogavan is really what flipped the race in Chase Irwin's favor.
Right.
And Bridge would have stopped that cold. You would have drawn the Boros Charm, and that would have been great.